That is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's fun to do.
So why would we be doing this? You mentioned already that we cannot do this modification of genes in a shorter time scale because just of the randomness that it produces. So we can have this technology that allows us to have a little bit more precision in what we're doing. But why would we want to do this, or like what are the benefits of having a genetically engineered organism?
There's two sets of benefits. The first is that we can move a trait that we're really interested in much faster. It allows us the speed of being able to precisely move one gene in a short time.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. But the other powerful side of this is that we can move genes that weren't necessarily supposed to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So just like when humans, people are diabetic, we have 45 million diabetics in the United States. You could take the gene for human insulin and put it in bacteria, and now have bacteria that can produce human insulin. It's a huge benefit.
Mm-hmm.
In plants, we could take the disease resistance, or let's say the gene from bacteria that makes a compound that is toxic to insect larvae.
Mm-hmm.
And you can put that in the corn. And now corn and cotton, or cotton, will make this protein in every cell that is toxic to insect larvae. So when the insect larvae comes along and starts to feed on the corn, it dies. So you don't need to apply insecticide.
Mm-hmm.
And that protein that kills the larvae has no effect on you. So it's so wonderful that here you can have a corn plant protect itself,
Mm-hmm.
or a cotton plant protect itself, and not have to worry about insecticides. It's brilliant.
What? Yeah, it really is. What other types? Because can you explain a little bit more of for example, the nutritional side of it? When we have those plants that we ingest, like the rice and all these very popular examples.
Well, the rice example you might be referring to is golden rice.
Yes.
So, yeah, we've known for a long time that there is a problem on the planet with vitamin A deficiency, and they estimate 1 million children a year die from vitamin A deficiency. I'm guessing it's much higher because the students, professor, the children that are affected by vitamin A deficiency are not in places where people are counting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mostly because world food staples like rice, wheat, corn, potato, they are a carbohydrate source that doesn't have a lot of vitamin A. That comes from something called beta carotene,
Mm-hmm.
which is the orange stuff in carrots and leafy green veggies. And someone once thought, and this was Ingo Potricus and Peter Baer.
Okay.
Yeah, they said, well, why don't we take the genes for beta carotene synthesis and put them into rice.
Mm-hmm.
40% of the world's calories come from rice. Let's make rice better using the genes that make the orange stuff in carrots.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, love it. And so they did this, and they did it in 1999. Here we are 24 years later and still just starting to get out. It was just approved in the Philippines for growth last year. This year will be grown in Bangladesh.
Mm-hmm.
And, it wasn't perfect.
Is it used in the United States?
No, we don't use it here. It's
because we don't need it.
We don't need it. We have plenty of vitamin A. This is for the developing world. And
right.
Vitamin A problem, when you're vitamin A deficient, you lose your vision, and then you lose your immune system. You usually die of some sort of chronic diarrhea. And it's a horrible way to go that doesn't have to happen.
And you were saying that it also affects that deficiency normally gets young people, right?
It's very prevalent, and the symptoms are highly prevalent in young people.
Mm-hmm.
And teams of workers will go into small villages throughout the world, and they'll put a few drops of vitamin A and some oil on their tongue. Mm-hmm. And that just a little few drops is enough to give them vitamin A for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go into Yemen as a Western worker, or places in Pakistan or Afghanistan as a Western healthcare worker, people will take their children and go and run and go inside because the rumors go around that they're spreading poisons from the West. They don't trust us to do the right thing, and understandably.
Mm-hmm.
So what if we could allow their farmers to grow the food that has this vitamin in it? And that it just makes so much sense to me. And that's the beginning. Also, zinc and iron and protein, many other things that are deficient. We have the ability to replace, and we should do it.
And we should do it. Yeah, and it can be as simple as making it taste better, right? Is that because I think that's, uh, for example, with the corn example, right? We can make it more juicy or more flavorful or whatever, right? It can be as simple as that. But since I mentioned this is controversial, like there's of course the other side. So what, in your view, what are the negative things about genetically engineering organisms?
Well, in terms of legitimate risks, so if
Mm-hmm.
we look at risk and benefit, we have not seen any evidence of a health problem from genetic engineering or ingredients from genetically engineered crops. Just hasn't happened, and it shouldn't. We're looking at products that we understand, such as this little insecticidal protein,
Mm-hmm.
which organic farmers have put on crops for years. It's called BT. They use it in a product called Dipel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we also have herbicide resistance, which confers herbicide to a confers resistance to a low toxicity herbicide called glyphosate or glufosinate,
Okay.
and the virus resistance. Those are the three main traits that have been engineered in. So no health impacts from the genetic engineering. We do see in the environmental realm
Mm.
consequences in the planet because
Before you go into that, we'll get into the environmental. Let's do the health thing because I think it really is one of the things that people can be most afraid of, right? Like when they explain this technology, it's like, oh, we're passing this gene from even a carrot to this rice, and people would say, "Oh, but that's not as you mentioned, right? Like the words that you use is like it's not technically supposed to be there, right? Like people do have, I guess, this like emotional reaction of like, well, if it's not supposed to be there, like maybe could something could be going on wrong in there, right? Like maybe what happens if that uh, inclusion of the extra gene makes some biological thing that I don't understand, and then it'll do something harmful for me, right? So what would you say to that person?
no, I understand that
Mm-hmm.
concern. But here's two thoughts: is that
Mm-hmm.
those genes are there; they're just not turned on at a high
Mm.
level. So the rice does make beta carotene; it just doesn't make it in the
In the
endosperm
same
of the
level.
rice, the part that we
Okay.
eat.
Mm-hmm.
But the plants make plenty of beta carotene in the leaves, and so the gene is there. It's just not turned on at the right
Right,
amount.
but not maybe this specific example, right? But in other
But
examples
but
that,
but it's the same
yeah,
thing. I
yeah.
mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's the fear of the unknown. But
Right.
here's the thing: is that the unknown is pretty limited because you can test the plant for what's different in terms of its gene expression, what's different in terms of its metabolism, what's different in terms of the chemistry aboard the rice. Is the rice, the final product, equivalent whether you have this alteration or not, except for beta carotene and ultimately vitamin A?
Right, and
And,
yeah, exactly, and we
and
can test this, right? It's
we
like
can test it.
you can look, and it's like, is it the same one? Is it the same one after you made the thing? Maybe there's some process there that we don't know, but then we can test it, right?
That's right.
Like we can just see, it's like, oh, is it the same rice plus this extra thing? And we can even test, as you're saying, the metabolism. We can also test the people, right? Like,
That's right.
what I guess people would say is like, oh, what about like the long term? Well, not long term. I'm not sure how to phrase it. It's
No,
like
you're right.
the long term effects that could be wrong, right? Like what happens if I eat this and then in like 40 years something happens to me, right?
Yeah, but we hear that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And what it goes back to is a question of plausibility. Is there any plausible reason why you would have something happen out of the blue 40 years later? And there's really not. And and if you applied that same standard to traditionally bred crops, where we're just mixing this one and this one, we wouldn't eat because we can't say that we didn't do something deleterious when we combine two things together. We know that traditional breeding has produced celery varieties which could not be marketed because they had such high concentration of anti-insect compounds from the celery itself, not genetic engineering,
Mm-hmm.
but just plants protect themselves all the time with anti-insect compounds. The levels in celery were so high that the workers would get broken out on their arms and you couldn't sell the celery. There was a potato that would have high levels of something called solamine, which is another dangerous alkaloid. It's a toxic compound. That this potato was an outstanding potato towards insects, but it was dangerous for people to consume. That came through traditional breeding, not tested, no oversight, no regulation, and could have gone into the food supply.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And nobody asks about long-term effects.
Mm-hmm.
But if you change one gene in a way that you understand and you can test and monitor, people get nervous.
Mm-hmm.
I'm exactly the opposite.
Yeah, and as you're saying that there's organizations independent from the people doing the engineering that are testing these things, right? I think you've mentioned like the Food and Drug Administration, USDA, all of these other entities that are like, oh, let's see if what these people are doing are really, if what these people are claiming is really the case, right? And that's kind of like the idea of science, right?
Right. Well, these organizations like FDA and USDA, EPA, they don't do any of the research themselves. What they do is they sit with a company that wants to release a product and they say, here are the tests we need to see. And then the company goes and gets those data. And then they can contract out to independent entities to double check it.
Right.
But they bring that data back to the EPA, FDA, and everything and see what's there. And a lot of people think that's not a good thing because